Thank you for taking a moment of your time to watch this presentation, The Selection of Collaborative Framework for Northridge High School, a presentation for the American College of Education. When selecting a model, you need to be very careful. You don't want to end up with too many models, and you want to make sure that the model you choose or framework is best for your school or organization. In this video and presentation, we will look through and discuss and define three major collaborative frameworks, that of the PLC, the Professional Learning Community, the COP, the Community of Practice, and finally the Critical Friends Group, the CFG. After having done so, we will then take a look and evaluate each of the frameworks and see what is a good fit. And in part 3, we will then select the best framework for Northridge and conclude with references. Let's start with the Professional Learning Community, or you'll hear me refer to it as the PLC. So what is it? DeFore puts it very succinctly. It is ongoing, it is collective, job-embedded, and results-oriented. Now, a PLC often is whole school or district-focused on a particular goal, working collaboratively and not separately. This quote from Horde you can read for yourselves, but it definitely describes how we shift from being isolated and autonomous to planning on working together. Now, PLCs tend to be district or administrator led, and teachers must practice continuous learning and be lifelong learners. Otherwise, outdated practices will result in lower student achievement. And as you see here, the quote from Dr. Ban as well too for you to read. Next up, we've got the Community of Practice, or the COP. Now, this is not exclusively school-related, oftentimes shows up in the business world, but it is applicable for schools as well. If we're to look at the goals of the COP, it is to build and exchange knowledge, develop and retain expertise, passion, and interest. It asks that we be innovative and try new things, find new resources, or try new practices. The intent is that there is time permitted by administration, as well as an awareness of which groups meet on what subjects. And here's a quote as well from Asai. Lastly, we look at the Critical Friends Group, the CFG. Now, this is a response to teachers who hit in-service overload and become weary of yet another method or fancy system that works elsewhere and may not work for our own school. Now, how does that work? There are designated roles, and those roles are as follows. There's the facilitator, there's the presenter, there's the process observer, and there's the responders. Now, ultimately, the presenter is the one who's in this hot seat, sometimes also known as the help seat. They're presenting a lesson plan, they're presenting a project, they're presenting a PBL, a problem-based learning activity, and it is the role of the responders to give feedback. They like this, they would suggest this, they ask these questions, and the facilitator ultimately makes sure that things are moving along, and they promote the presenter as well too. The process observer is the individual who is responsible for watching all of the interactions going on and give feedback as well too. When evaluating the frameworks that were presented here, it is critical to remember our main focus, and that's the students, to improve their education, to give them greater opportunities in life. And so, looking back, we can see the PLCs typically used by administration where they can sit in and spur participation. They're usually designated and assigned. The COP is usually whole school, and as Dr. Vessel said, if there is a common interest or passion among many or all teachers in the school and everyone is searching for and sharing ideas within and beyond the school, this constitutes a COP. This creates a body of shared expertise and promotes best practices. It can extend outside the school walls and even involve other schools. And finally, the CFGs tend to be, again, as Dr. Vessels talked about, more teacher-controlled, teacher-initiated, and teacher learning focused, and has indirect benefits for students. CFGs are for teachers only and confidential. It's about trust and openness between peers. and it's typically a small team with a specific focus. Those teams usually are sized between 3 to 8 members in total. Now we can take a look at this chart that was designed by Dr. Vessels. And if you add it all up, you would actually find that there is just as many no's between COP, PLC, and CFG. So ultimately, when one compares and evaluates these different frameworks, it's important to decide what's the best fit, not just only for the school, but what's best for the team. So thus, my team of 3, as of now, made a selection of the framework. And I think it's important to pause and consider, well, why even bother with this? Why bother with this model or that model? What's the point? Well, it counters teacher autonomy. It promotes a shared leadership, also known as a distributed leadership, which is something that we are trying to accomplish. Our team of 3 came up with 3 factors that aided our selection on which framework was the best fit. We started by looking at what was discussed in Module 2. Our ultimate goal is increased parental involvement. Our second factor had to do with one member in the group who had stated concerns about having administration sit in on the conversations due to some past negative experiences. And then finally, the third factor had to do with the fact that we are still very much in the middle of a pandemic. Things are changing daily, and a large, robust system may not be the framework that's right for us now. So thus, our team landed on the choice of the Critical Friends group. Now, we intend to put this into practice. We fully anticipate that it will not just be the 3 of us, but that we will find other like-minded individuals who want to assist us in this work. And ultimately, it was unanimous between the 3 of us that this was the best model to serve the needs that we seek to fulfill in the coming school year. Here's the references. Thank you so much for watching this today. And thank you so much. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can like or subscribe. I'm just kidding. But actually, if you want to, you can. I won't stop you. I can't stop you. Thanks again.